Oh, hello.
Hello, good morning.
What's happening? It's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday,
Doing
otherwise known as Boss and List Day.
yeah, I mean, technically this isn't a Boss Up and List show, but
Still, it's our
it's a new
Wednesday.
thing. The Boss Reseller Remix preview show. Come on. Anyway, yeah, we're going to be doing a few of these, maybe almost every Wednesday, I think, until the actual remix, which is like coming fast. It's like 48, 49 days.
I can't even talk about it.
Whew, are you getting stressed or what?
I'm totally getting stressed. I have a million 10 things to do. Katie has even 1,020,000 to do.
Why do I have 10 more things to do than you do?
Because you just do.
So rude. Anyway, so
I delegate better than you do.
Whatever, man. Whatever. Yeah, delegate to me.
Exactly.
So rude. Anyway, so we're doing these Wednesday shows, trying to bring you guys some content. First of all, for some of you that aren't able to make it, give you a little bit of an idea what's happening. And for some of you who are making it, or maybe you're still trying to decide if you are going to buy a ticket, because
there are still tickets available. We had a huge rush of ticket purchases last year in the month of September. So you never know.
So why don't we go ahead and bring Theresa in so we can bring the three together. Hey, Theresa, what's happening?
Me.
You're happening?
I'm happening. That's my high school answer, and I'm not changing it. I'm good. How are you guys doing? I'm over here in sunny North Carolina. It's kind of sunny today, and
she's like, I don't know. I haven't left my hotel room yet. Is it sunny yet?
So you're at the FlipCon. We're super jealous because you're getting to hang out with some of our buddies, especially Trish. You guys are like roomies and everything.
I know. I'm not. When I go to a conference, I'm one that I like to have my decompressed downtime. But Trish wanted to have a roomie. I'm like, okay. Oh my gosh, we're both so tired. And she hasn't made me laugh till I had an asthma attack yet, which is always her goal. And so far I've let her down.
It's only been one day. There's time.
She's let me down because she hasn't made me laugh until I had an asthma attack yet. So but we're getting there. So yeah, the event really starts tonight, and we've had some meals last night and breakfast this morning with a group of it's like we love getting together with resellers, and yeah, so we're having a blast.
Yeah, so anyone who doesn't know, FlipCon this is their first year doing it, and it's put on by Harry Tornado, Josh, and
there's someone else too. He has a partner that he's doing it with, but I don't know who that other person's name is. I apologize.
Is it Commonwealth Picker?
No,
he's
one of the speakers.
Okay. Anyway, it's I think it's mainly YouTubers, right? Mostly like social media influencers in the reselling world are speaking. And so Theresa, you decided you were gonna to travel on over there with a bunch of other resellers. I think they've got a few hundred people there. And we're excited to hear how it goes. And Josh, of course, Harry Tornado and his wife Haley, they're actually going to be at the BOSS Reseller Remix, and they'll be speaking on a panel. So that should be very exciting. So Theresa just couldn't wait another 49 days.
Yeah. Well, they came to the Reseller Remix and supported us. And I was like, you know what? I want to go hang out with these East Coasters, see what the weather's like on the East Coast, and give them some support. And, so we're here, and List Perfectly is here. So I'm going to help talk about List Perfectly to whoever List Perfectly needs help with. So, but it's an excuse to get together with a bunch of reseller friends.
It's true. I think that Katie and I probably would have been able to attend if I hadn't just had surgery. I hate missing out on a reseller event in general.
Yeah. Any excuse to get together with other resellers. We like it. We're all a bunch of weirdos and we enjoy each other's weirdness. So anyway, Tommy's saying I missed yesterday's show. I'm sure you're talking about the virtual meetup that happened yesterday. And I'm assuming that Theresa, you recorded it. And so we will at some point get that added to the BOSS Reseller Remix YouTube channel. So you will be able to see that. We'll make sure we post that in the...
Unless Theresa forgot to hit record.
Well, so here's the thing. I have it set up on my account to record automatically. And I think it's account specific and not device specific, because I am on my laptop. And if it's device specific, I did not hit record yesterday. So I need to check it out when I get home, see if it's there. But the goal is to record them all. So hopefully I did.
Yeah. So possibly I could be lying to you, Tommy, but we'll see. Jill
Thank
says,
you, Jill. Phoenix Resale. I didn't have anything up on my computer to take a look. I don't know who that is, but I didn't mean to slight them. I know that there was a co-host.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fun seeing the pictures and some videos of already coming out of some of our peeps and people that we haven't met yet, or maybe we'll meet someday, all getting to hang out together. Indeed, Theresa, weirdos unite. Anyway, so today's show, though, we have a special guest, Jess Oman. Or now I'm saying it like you say it. See, I say it. I've always said it correctly. It's Oman. I'm
Jess
assuming.
Oman.
She can nod her head. I can see her right here. And Vikki, for whatever reason, decided it was Oman because she wanted to be fancy about it. And it's just so rude.
Vikki probably
and now you've infected me with your mispronunciations.
Sorry.
Well,
I'll pronounce it right now.
And also, if you were faithfully listening to Jess's podcast, you know you don't need to.
No, I only heard.
You don't need to say sorry, okay? Anyway, so Jess is a reseller. We're going to get to know her a little bit, but most importantly, she's going to be presenting at the BOSS Reseller Remix. And personally, I've been saying this not to put pressure on her, but I've been saying I think her presentation could be the sleeper hit of the event because I'm really looking forward to it. But she is a reseller. She is Canadian, and she also has a background in business, has her MBA, has experience as an adjunct professor at a university level. And she has a podcast that she just started recently, all about reselling and reselling.
That I have to catch up on, but I really like it. I'm just not a podcast person, so I have to make a concerted effort.
Yeah, see, I'm the podcaster. I'm the podcast.
She listens to them all day long, every day. So for me, it's like outside of I got to go find a way and make sure I listen to it. So like it's not my normal everyday thing.
Her podcast is the Business of Reselling.
Super interesting.
And I'm really excited about it because, there's always stuff to learn from other resellers, but I love getting to learn from somebody who actually has like a background and foundation in business and kind of can approach it from a more research standpoint as opposed to just anecdotal stories. So I'm super excited to hear what she has to say today, as well as what's going to be going on at the remix. But let's go ahead and bring her in.
For sure.
All right. What's happening, Jess?
Hey, I am so excited to be here. This is crazy. This is like as excited as I get at 10 o'clock in the morning.
So it's 10 o'clock where you are. Where exactly are you?
Vancouver, BC, Canada.
Okay, yeah, you're in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the same time zone as us. Anyway, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
I'm super stoked to be here. I got everything. I even got like the eBay mug with
nice.
Canadian.
With the maple leaf, even that's special. You're fancy.
This one will be worth something someday.
There you
go. Might be.
Love it.
So we're excited to have you here, and we're super excited to we have a few of our Canadian friends are making the trip across the border to come to the remix this year.
Well, I know you really wanted to come last year for the remix, but you couldn't because you're in Canada. So
there was still a lot of border restrictions last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jess, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself to the people here? Kind of give us some background of kind of who you are, what you do as a reseller. I know you have a reselling business with your husband and you're called Storage Warrior. So I think people could assume that has something to do with storage lockers. So why don't you fill us in on kind of your background there?
Sure. So the story is really simple. We got into this completely by accident. We just really liked the show Storage Wars like 10 years ago or whenever it was on. And we thought, gosh, do they do that here? I don't know. And we went and we found an auction. And we're like, whoa, no way. They have Storage Wars in Vancouver. This is so cool. We went, we bought a locker. It was the last locker of the day. I remember this auction was exhausting. It just took all day. And we got the last locker for $200. And inside it, there was like a pretty big set of Royal Albert Old Country Roses china, which is like, it's a collectible pattern it's not high value, but people like it. And we were like, what's this? We don't know anything about this. And I think we made like $800 on it or something. And then we sold a bunch of other stuff from the unit. And we were like, what? This is easy. We should keep doing it. And so we did. And we just kept buying units. And eventually, we were like, we can't live amongst this. So we moved into a garage. And then we moved into a bigger garage. And then we moved into a warehouse. And it just kept snowballing like that. And eventually we both quit our jobs and just decided this was going to be the full-time thing. It's Storage Warrior. And so the name kind of comes from that background and that beginning. And we've just been having a lot of fun over the last several years, just figuring out how to scale up, figuring out how to do this at the multiple six-figure level. How do you grow a business like this, which has so much uncertainty in it on the supply side, like into something that's truly sustainable and profitable while still enjoying life? So I've had a really good time bringing my sort of business background and energy to figuring that out. And then I decided like it would be fun to start sharing some of those stories and some of that knowledge with other sellers. And that's what kind of inspired me to start the podcast. And I actually had the idea for it over a year ago, but it took me a long time to really put it together and figure out what I wanted to talk about and how to structure it. So that just launched in July. Yeah, it's called the Business of Reselling.
Yeah, and I have the links down below. The link will take you to a page that has like all the places that you can access the podcast. So, for me, like, I have like a certain app that I use to listen to my podcasts. And so, or if you're not like normally listening to podcasts, it might be the easiest for you to just listen to it. I think you can listen to it right on the website. And then you can also listen to it like on YouTube. And I think YouTube's probably the best place if you want to actually like leave comments and kind of interact with you a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I should do like videos. And then I'm like, look how boring my background is. Like, I can't do videos with that. It's a shame.
You
Look
can't
at
be
Theresa's. She's
not
not even
boring.
trying.
You're in a hotel. It's okay. I live here.
That's true. That's true.
Good point.
And I have to put on like makeup every day. Come on. I was getting ready this morning and I'm like, oh man, I put on deodorant. Like, why did I do that? Like, you can't. I'm the only one here.
Not smell-o-vision. We can't tell.
Not yet. Oh my gosh. I'm terrified of that.
I appreciate the effort, though.
It's true. It's true.
I put deodorant on too, but I am around people, so.
Yeah. I feel like the way that you said you got started is how so many of us have gotten started. You sell a few things, you think it's interesting, you go online, you sell a few things. I know that's how I started. I sold a $2 national cash register that I got at a garage sale. I paid $2. It was the first thing I flipped. I sold a few things I already owned on eBay because like that's what you do. And that was just for the heck of it. And then I actually went to a garage sale or a yard sale and I purchased this antique cash register for $2. Nobody wanted it. I didn't even know what the heck it was. And I put it on eBay and put it into an auction and it sold for over $1,700. And I was like, why are more people not doing this? This is so easy. I'm going to be a millionaire. What is wrong? Immediately I was like, this is my new life. And that's what happened.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I think most of us have similar stories. It's just like we found some cool things and then it just started to gain momentum from there. But I also think that's part of the reason why a lot of resellers don't start developing any kind of like meaningful strategy or really thinking about the big picture of the business, because it starts without any kind of structure or form to it. And then so it can very easily stay that way.
No, I think you're right. I think I think people become accidental business owners selling online, and they don't necessarily realize that they finally, oh, wait a minute, I have a business. What I don't know what that is. I don't know how to do that. They don't have business background, and that's most people. And then we've got to figure out, how do we do this? How do you figure out how to do accounting? What does that mean? Cost of goods. What is that? Sell-through rate. What is that? I was just buying some crap for 99 cents and selling it for $10. I didn't realize they needed to have a business strategy, and I think that's what comes, it like you said, it snowballs and it gets bigger than, accidental business owners is kind of exactly how it feels for a lot of us. So you already came into it with a business background, which is really lucky and really good.
Well, I'm pretty sure she had to pay to go to school to get that business background.
Well, I realized that. It's lucky that she fell into this and already had a business background is what I mean.
Yeah, I had to use my MBA for something.
Right. Good. So many people get degrees and use them for nothing, right?
Yeah, that one was expensive. So yeah,
that's true.
Well, and so, for you, I don't know how many of you in the chat have had a chance to go and listen to some of Jess's podcasts, but they're fantastic. And I really love the research part of it. I love that you bring in not just one source, but you'll have like 5 different sources, and it'll be books or articles, and you'll really get into it. Like you did an episode on how to say no, which I strongly suggested for Victoria here to listen to.
I don't know why.
And I thought it was fantastic. And I think, it was a great message for anyone, whether you're a reseller or not, but the way that you kind of connected it to reselling and how it really affects your business for good and bad, like your ability to say no to requests either from customers or other resellers. And you got really into like the psychology of it and like why people have a hard time saying no and what happens if you don't say no and how that can kind of snowball and affect your future and your business. So I just really appreciate like how you do that. How much work goes into kind of setting up one of your episodes?
Well, as a university professor and last minute teacher, I would have to say that I look for the maximal result from the minimal amount of effort. So it probably doesn't take as long as you might think. I've gotten really good at that over the years, finding good, credible sources quickly to get into it. The How to Say No episode was definitely got a few dislikes on YouTube, which is like a great reason to go listen to it. It's a very easy message to resist. Like we shouldn't say no. The customer is always right. We have to be this, perfect, glorious, angelic business person at all times. But you don't, and you shouldn't, because it won't serve you in the long term, and it won't serve your best customers in the long term to try and accommodate every single person who asks you for something.
That's true. Yeah. And that's very true in her personal. Now I know why she wants me to listen to it.
Well,
that's very true in personal life. I'm one of those people. I have a very hard time saying no. I overextend myself very frequently. And not in business. Actually, business, I find it easier to say no because it's not as personal to me. But in my personal life, I have a really hard time saying no to people.
Well, and she'll say yes while in her head it's not like
I
later
really
on.
want to say no.
Like I'm somebody where I'll say yes because something sounds like a good idea. And then later on, I'm like, ugh, I don't really want to do that. Where she's like, ugh, I don't really want to do that. Yes. And it's like, and I'm like, you are allowed to say no, or she'll say no, but she thinks she has to come up with some extravagant reason that she's saying no. Like she has to explain it. But I see it a lot with like resellers where, like for instance, in like the lowball situation or somebody trying to get you to give them something, rather than just, because I'm all about the just saying no. I'll just be like, sorry, no. And, 2 words, 1 word response. Like I'm fine with that. I'm not going to waste my time. And I see other resellers kind of, they'll write a novel where they want to,
I paid like $15 for this.
They want to explain why they can't do it, and they want to go into this whole thing of like, their how much they have to be profitable and blah blah blah, and they got to go into this whole thing.
Your customer doesn't care,
and I'm like, they don't care. They really don't care.
No is a complete sentence.
I was actually just going to say that Dana has been teaching me over the years. Our friend Dana, she's one of my best friends, and has been teaching me over the years. No is a complete answer. You need to learn how to use it, and I'm getting a little bit better as I get older. But I tell you, I'm a work in progress for sure.
Yeah, and just to say that in her show, she says no is a complete answer.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, sometimes it's worth it to give an explanation. It's kind of about deciding whether it's going to matter to that person that you're interacting with, whether they really need to understand the reasoning. So let's say, for example, somebody wants you to ship like a $3,000 item to, Germany. And you're like, well, we can't do that because we're not signed up for Lucid and they have these crazy packaging laws and we can't really ship to Germany anymore. So you can just say no, but that's pretty abrupt. It might actually be worth it to tell that buyer hey, I can't, I wish I could, but these are the reasons why, but not to apologize because none of that is your fault at all. But, it sometimes can be worth it to say that. But if somebody's if you put something up for auction with a starting bid of $50 and you immediately get the person who's like, I'll give you $35 today, cash, no.
Which, what does that mean, cash? Are you going to come to my house? Because I get those all the time. And I'm like, what do you mean you're giving me cash?
It's not cash.
What was the alternative? We had a warehouse sale the other weekend, and people come in and like, well, this thing's up for $25. I'll give you $10 cash. It's like, what? We don't even have Venmo in Canada, so it's not like we can even talk about other options here.
Yeah.
You can do a yard sale without money? What are you doing?
Well, and you referenced, you had a source, I think it was a book, talking about when you say yes to something, you are basically, it's like you are committing to time in the future that takes away from the possibility of other things you could be doing with that time. Whereas when you say no, you're actually saving that future time. And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. And I think it's also about knowing that understanding and being able to say no comes from understanding the value of that time. So what are the tasks that I should be doing in my business that are the most productive for me? What are the ones that are going to produce the best return, whether that's a financial return or a return in the form of like extra time off or whatever it is? Like, what are the returns that you're looking for? Focus your business tasks around that kind of stuff. So if you know what the most productive things are that you should be doing in your business, it becomes a lot easier to say, no, this particular action doesn't make sense for me. I should be doing this instead.
Yeah, I think people who work for themselves, particularly resellers, it's really easy to not think about the value of your time, the monetary value of your time, because in your mind it's just kind of like, well, my labor's free, and I can just, I can do all these things. And
I
it's
don't
like,
think like that.
but I think a lot of resellers do, and so that's why they potentially won't invest in things that will save them time, because they don't want to spend the money, even though it might free up their time that could allow them to be a lot more productive. So
I have to tell you, as somebody that teaches seller, that's one of the hardest things to teach. Stay-at-home moms don't value their time enough. And they're like, oh, well, I'm going to do this. It's just easier for me to copy paste, or I'm just going to do this. I bought this for 50 cents. I'm selling it for $10. Yeah, but when you figure out your net profit, yeah, your ROI might be 4 or 5 times, but your net profit is only $4. And and it took an hour of your time. Are you really only worth $4 an hour? When you start breaking it down like that, then sometimes the light bulb goes off.
Mm-hmm.
But not always.
Not always.
We will all end up doing stuff that isn't fully productive. We're not looking for this perfect environment where we're like, I only do things that are worth $100 an hour, and that's it, or I'm not getting out of bed. It's not like that. It doesn't have to be cut and dry, but it is really more about thinking about like, what am I doing that's producing the most value in my business and in my life? And I want to do spend most of my time doing those things.
Yeah. And if it brings value, and if it brings value in another way, $4 an hour doesn't matter, because if you're a stay-at-home mom and all you want to do is interact with an adult, $4 an hour is gold, because that's not really what the need that you're fulfilling. You're fulfilling this other need, and it doesn't matter what the results are. So I get all that. I think that it's important for resellers to be aware, and I just try to make people aware. And what choices you make is completely up to you, because everybody's life is different. Everybody's home everything's different. And so just because it works for me, and I like what you just said about how we don't have to have the perfect situation at all times, because you're talking about saying yes and no in future time. I don't think I ever thought about a yes being a takeaway from a future time.
Yeah, I like that analogy a lot, actually.
I said yes to a meeting last week that's going to be at 2:30 this afternoon. And I'm like, well, now I can't go do something in North Carolina that I wanted to do, because I said yes to this meeting, because last week I didn't have anything that I was going to do on Wednesday afternoon. So I think that's going to stick with me.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to think about things, and it's kind of related to that is something I talked about on the podcast episode that aired yesterday about not selling $10, $15, $20 items, and how that's going to trickle down and end up wasting your time in the future. Like, we will go to yard sales sometimes and spend even a couple of hours garage sailing, and even though we might have picked like 8 or 10 like $20 items to sell, it was a bad morning of yard sailing, we won't even buy them, because what's a $20 item going to do down my supply chain? I sourced that $20 thing, even if I only spent $1 on it. I gotta pay somebody to photograph it. I gotta process it. I gotta list it. I gotta describe it. I gotta pack it. I gotta ship it. I guaranteed have a customer who wants it for $7. I have to deal with that person. I have to say no 17 times. And what? I made 50 cents in the end. So I would rather come home with nothing and just like hang out with my dog than source a bunch of $15, $20 items. It's not worth it.
So with your podcast, you kind of talk about how it's all about scaling up. I think you said your own business. So like, what is your goal? Like, what's your goal right now for your business? And like, how is that kind of like coinciding or going alongside your journey on your podcast?
Yeah, we're chasing $1 million in revenue in a year. That's where we're trying to get to. And we've only managed to get halfway there so far. And this year is very different, because it's like, it's kind of, I don't want to say post-pandemic, but it's like buyer behavior is looking very different this year than it did the last couple of years.
It is, for sure.
And so the challenge is, well, if you want to continue to scale and grow, how do we do that in the environment of all the economic uncertainty and all the really wacky consumer behavior that's going on right now? The trends that used to be really predictable are not anymore. So it's like, if you're chasing that $1 million, like what do you have to do? And so it's really about focusing on the things that you can control. So we're figuring out how to maximize our efficiency and our productivity in the aspects of our business that we have complete control over. And I think the better job we do at that, the closer we're going to get to $1 million. So if you're not chasing $1 million, the podcast is still relevant. You might be going from $1,000 to $5,000. You want to be thinking about your systems, your processes, and your productivity in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other episodes that I really enjoyed was successful reselling during massive inflation. And you got, I think it was really interesting. Again, you had all these great sources, all this research to kind of support some of the stuff that you were talking about. But what I thought was really interesting, because we're all trying to figure out like what's happening, why are my sales down? Like, how can I, what do I need to do in order to kind of confront that and hopefully get through it. And if you could go into a little bit what you were talking about, it's not necessarily just about, okay, now I need to sell cheaper stuff because nobody has money. But looking at like, okay, people that actually have more disposable income, you could be going for higher valued items,
right?
As opposed to like what most people would think, like, oh, I just need to sell cheap stuff. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's probably one of the number one things I discuss with people who are struggling in their businesses. Like, you need to sell more expensive stuff. And then people get upset and they're like, I don't know where to get more expensive stuff. It's like, okay, that's a solvable problem. We can work on that. But what your goal is you need to find higher ticket items and sell those. During the pandemic, the gap between the rich and the poor, unfortunately, widened. It did. That's a fact. A lot of people who were low income continue to struggle. People who had high income got richer in most cases. And that same kind of trend can continue even if there is a recession. The people with the money, with their strong investments, can continue to hold them. They can weather the storm a lot better. So they're going to be able to maintain more disposable income than a lot of other socioeconomic segments of the population. That's an unfortunate reality, and we wish it wasn't like that. But as resellers, we need to look to some of those people and say, well, if there is a segment out there with lots of money still, what are they buying?
Luxury items and people that purchase those items. It's exactly what you're saying, whether it's the automobile industry, the real estate market, or whatever. When it doesn't matter what the economy is doing, the people that are rich stay rich. So they're still going to be purchasing those luxury items, those designer items, those higher end collectible items. And that end of the spectrum is very rarely affected by a recession. The people that are affected by the recession are the people in the middle and at the lower end of the socioeconomic scale that may no longer have a disposable income to spend on, frivolous items. So they're going to want to be looking for the deal and spending less money and maybe buying used items as clothing and things like that for their kids and themselves and business wear, that kind of stuff. So that will still have a market, but it's going to be forcing you for the lower prices because they're going to want everything at a lower price. So exactly what you're saying. The higher end prices are going to just continue to stay at the higher end, and you're still going to have that market. It's the middle section that is going to struggle right now.
Yeah, we want to be avoiding the race to the bottom.
Yep.
And selling a whole bunch of cheap items that buyers just want cheaper and cheaper. If you're going to sell low value items, it's not the end of the world. And I said it in the podcast yesterday. I've got 6,200 listings, or maybe I think we hit 6,300 yesterday. We have like 1,800 items under $20. And I hate every one of those items, but there's reasons why those things are there that have, something to do with little disagreements between myself and the other as to what we should sell and what we shouldn't. But we do have a lot of $20 items. But one of the things you can do with those lower value items is sort of group them and encourage buyers to bundle. So that's like if you're selling a bunch of comic books, a bunch of die-cast cars, a bunch of items that are sort of similar, and you can connect with collectors of those items, by offering them like 10% off if they buy 3, which is something that we do. You can encourage a higher overall purchase by bundling a whole bunch of inexpensive items together. So I can be okay with selling lower value items sometimes, as long as I have a whole bunch of them that are kind of similar.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So as far as like people trying to sell higher dollar items, do you have like any tips around like, you're saying it's a solvable problem, finding those items, sourcing those items. So do you have any tips for us?
It's hard to give tips, like just to say, oh, just try this little thing or try that little thing, because sourcing depends on so many factors. It depends on your region, where you live. Are you rural? Are you urban? How much access you have to different types of stores, different types of collectors, or just a denser population? How much money do you have to put into sourcing? Like that's a real thing. So, and what categories do you know the best? It's not a good idea to jump into comic books and invest $5,000 in a collection if you don't really know what's in there and what you're buying. So it's hard to say like, hey, try this or buy this item, do this thing. Sure. So I'm going to be spending the next few episodes of the podcast talking about some of the sourcing strategies that have worked for us and how they've worked for us, and hopefully help people figure out how they might be able to apply some of those ideas to their business. But some of the tips that I can, or sort of the ideas that I can get people thinking about now are things like, first of all, buying in bulk. So if you're buying, if you're comfortable spending a little bit more money than you usually do when you're sourcing, maybe you can get more of like a large grouping of relatively similar items that you can list all at once. Every single time we do this, we get a fantastic sales from that category. So most recently we purchased like, I don't know, it wasn't huge. I think it was maybe 60 or 70 of these large 1/18 scale die-cast cards. And we put them all up. And which ones do you think sold first, the cheap ones or the expensive ones?
Probably expensive ones.
Yeah, you got it.
The collector.
So yeah, so we get them all up listed, and then boom, we make our money back like in a day, because the most expensive ones are going to go to the collectors first. So that's one sourcing tip. So think about what is a category that you know really well and it's selling. So like not collector plates. Don't.
Yeah. No collector
plates. No beanie babies. Don't. What's a category I know well that I've done my research on eBay or on different platforms that I know is still in demand and selling? Where can I go and buy a whole bunch of that? So is it advertising on Craigslist or your local classifieds to try and find people who are liquidating their collections? It's a good chance for heading into a recession. There may be people liquidating collections to pay for things. So this may be a really good opportunity to just source a larger amount of items at a good price. Mm-hmm. Do I use, we invest money in our marketing. So we use Facebook ads to target local sellers of comic books, or people who just have like a closet full of comics that, oh gosh, I'd really like to have that storage space back. And we try to target those people. So we buy collections that way. So it's really thinking creatively of like, what's the category I know well, what's that's selling, and how do I go and buy like more of them than I usually do? So that's probably one of the biggest tips that I can give people for trying to get some of those high value items, and then list the most expensive ones first. Make all your money back.
That's what I've been telling people for years. When you hear people that have death piles and stuff,
pick out the most expensive things and list them.
If you're going to tackle it, the first thing you should be going after is the higher value stuff. Like, don't
leave the $5 and $10 items for last, if at all. Go and get you list all the expensive stuff first. Make your money work for you fast. Start getting your money back.
But I know, when a lot of people, they'll, I feel like a lot of times, not to like be too negative, but some resellers, they tend to focus too much on like reasons why they can't do something and excuses for why they can't be successful. And one of those tends to be, where they are, their limitations for local sourcing. And I've found, especially when the pandemic happened, and neither Vikki nor I work with death piles, which is great until you hit a point where you literally cannot go sourcing. And so all of a sudden we were having to figure out like, okay, how can we like do more online sourcing, have stuff shipped to us? And right now we're going through a period where I know for me particularly, I need to be sourcing more volume. And so I'm having to like push myself out of my comfort zone and go out and actually look for sources online. And let me tell you, there's a lot out there. Like you have to figure out what is actually good and what's dependable and what's, you just kind of getting screwed and overcharged for really mediocre stuff. So it definitely takes time and kind of testing. And you do have to have some capital to be able to buy some stuff. But there are a lot of options out there for sourcing if you really dig and look.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, sourcing has been a challenge for the last couple of years. I think most of us can attest to that. Like, it's been hard. Sure. People didn't want people in their homes. Like, COVID killed the yard sale. It's what we always say. We're like, COVID killed the yard sale. There's nothing left. And even in our region, the garage sales and stuff that we used to pick from and do really well at haven't really come back, which is frustrating because they live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. There's like a gazillion rich people, like just like across the road from me. And nobody is like they're all just, shut the door. And it's like, but you have so much stuff in there and you don't want it. I know you don't want it.
Sell it to
Okay.
me.
Sell it to
me. Hey, real quick, Mike from New York. He was on our live stream yesterday, Theresa, but he was having technical difficulties. But he's here now. Looking forward to seeing you all at the Remix in October. Yeah, for sure, Mike. Can't wait to see you again.
We are looking forward to seeing you as well.
Yeah, we love
Thanks
Mike.
for popping in.
Super, super nice guy. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate it, Mike.
Awesome.
Yeah. So also, I really like how you kind of mix up your podcast. You have like your regular episodes that are usually around 30 minutes or so. And then you also have, and this is my favorite title ever, your little short episodes that are called Just the Tip.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like little short, like 10-minute, 15-minute. You've got one on building an email list, on revising your listings. And they're just, I really like how you have very specific kind of calls to action and kind of assigning tasks to people to really improve themselves and their businesses. It's pretty cool.
And I'm looking forward to that in your presentation coming up in October. I know that was something that you talk about. You're somebody that is, when you're teaching or you're talking about something, you are very specific about giving people assignments and calls to action and ways that they can take information from your presentation and apply it to their businesses in some way. So that's the whole goal of the Remix. I mean, that's really what we try to do with all of our sessions, with all of our panelists. We want everybody to be able to get a little nugget of something out of each presenter's information that they can apply to their own business, to themselves, to help improve their business. It's not just about having people up there to listen to themselves talk. We specifically choose the people that we've chosen because we know that they're good teachers and they have knowledge and they have information to impart and wisdom to impart.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully,
No softball. We want to go hard on these people. We want the actionable items to be like not something that they can go out and do in 20 minutes. Like I want some real
ready.
Yep. Let me give you some goals.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? Is if we get caught up too much in the day-to-day minutiae and those little tiny tasks are the ones that we should mostly be saying no to, then we never give ourselves time to think about the big picture of like, where am I actually going with this reselling business? Why am I even doing this? What's my legacy? Mm-hmm. What am I trying to accomplish by doing what I'm doing? And we all have different goals. So if you can define that, even a little bit, it doesn't necessarily have to be super specific, but what's the goal for 6 months or 12 months down the road? Like, where do you see your business going? Okay, now what are the steps that I'm going to need to get there? Because there's no point in coming up and talking a bunch of business stuff and then not giving anyone an idea of what they can do with the information they've just been provided with. Because it's not like hearing something and saying, oh, I really like that message, and being able to apply it are two different things. So I really like to give people some ideas and some things that they can walk away with and start doing that'll get them thinking more strategically about their businesses.
Yeah. And so you addressed that, I think it came out a couple of days ago or yesterday, the business, the sourcing for 6-figure sales. And that's just part one. How many parts are you going to have?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm just like till I'm done. Yeah, I'm just going to keep talking about things till I'm done. So I'm really encouraging people to ask questions, send me emails, write me comments, and find out what specifically people want to know about sourcing. I can't say that I've got it all figured out for sure, or I'd be at $1 million, but that's the whole point of the podcast, is that I'm learning too. And so, I'm going to do a few episodes on sourcing, just until I feel like I've answered everyone's questions and sort of exhausted my whole knowledge bank. But it could take there's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about. We had some fun questions in the chat. I think we've covered a little bit of like the businessy stuff, but we had some fun questions early on in the chat that people wanted to ask you.
I'm so excited.
See, I think Tommy was the first one.
I already clicked on somebody.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's
we got
Sandy.
So what's the strangest item you found in the unit, and did it sell?
I get this question all the time, and like, I just like don't have a good answer. So okay, I would say like one of the strangest items I ever found in a unit was like this doll that somebody had like burned, like they had burned the hair and like scratched up the face and made it look all like ghoulish and bloody, and then damaged the packaging that it was in, and then wrote burn victim Barbie on there. And I was like, maybe we should just ditch the rest of this unit.
Yeah, pretty sure that wouldn't have gone over well trying to sell that thing.
That was a
Oh.
lot. So yeah, no, it didn't sell. I mean, would not feel right about that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the funny thing is like storage units are actually not that interesting. Like you mostly get a bunch of kids' toys and household stuff, and so it's like a lot of kind of like bread and butter
Dirty
items.
mattresses. A lot of dirty mattresses.
Oh yeah, the mattresses. One time we got a mattress and it had a cut in the side, and we're like, oh, what's in there?
Oh, maybe
We
there's
opened
money.
it up and pulled out a huge wad of money from Zimbabwe.
Well,
now, do you still is the majority of your sourcing from storage units still, or I mean, how is that now that I feel like a lot of people are into the storage unit game?
Yeah, it's up here in Vancouver, everything has gone online. There are no live auctions anymore at all. So that's frustrating for a couple of reasons. You get a lot of keyboard warriors going and really bidding up the units to a price where you can't really guarantee yourself a profit at all. Also, you can't smell it, which is very important. You really need to be able to smell it.
smelling the unit, that's new to me.
It's like, yeah, really. Sometimes they open the door and you're like, nope, not that one. Yeah, might have been living in there, but yeah, so we stopped. Unfortunately, we had to stop doing that. It used to be a lot of fun. We had to stop doing that, and estate sales and yard sales have been a struggle since the pandemic. So we've shifted to liquidating collections and estates. So just like in Vancouver, real estate market's really hot. So these houses get sold, and the goal is just to empty them out as fast as possible. So we try to get in there with the junk companies and sort of help them reduce their tipping fees while taking a whole bunch of items that we could sell. We do that. And then we purchase local collections. So that's one of the ways that's working really well for us right now is getting those bulk items, big collections of things that are very similar, that we can sell really fast. And so we've been kind of shifting more towards that. So all of a sudden our store will have like 500 model kits in it, or like 300 slot cars or whatever, but it's just like, that's just how it is. So that's sort of mainly the way that we've been sourcing now. We still go to yard sales and stuff because it's fun, and we acknowledging that it's not always the best use of our time. It's still an enjoyable use of our time, and it's okay to spend your time doing things you like.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I think you've kind of danced around this a little bit. Have you ever had a unit that was just a bust, and which is better, thrift or storage?
I think
we're probably going to say neither on that one.
Oh, I have very strong opinions about thrifting. Okay. Yeah, no, we haven't lost money on units much. I think there's maybe 3 units ever that we lost money on out of 400 or 500. So like,
pretty good.
That's
yeah,
pretty good odds. Yeah,
it's pretty good. Sometimes they're not great, but like, yeah, you always can figure out how to make some money if you're scrappy. The key with a unit is to sort it and organize it as quickly as possible so that you're not wasting your time going through a bunch of garbage. So you just like open it up and you're like, keep this, look it up later, donate this, throw this away, and you make those 3 piles and then just focus on the 1 pile. So that's how we kind of made sure we made money every time. Which is better, thrift or storage? Yeah, it's I think storage units are probably still good in a lot of regions. I don't know what regions those are. I think some people are probably doing quite well with it who just don't happen to be in one of those areas. And unless you really love thrifting and it's just you do it because for the enjoyment of it, I don't think thrifting is a good way to source at all.
Mm-mm.
No,
yeah, we pretty much only do it just for fun, like just because we're like, let's go check it out. We might find a few things. It's definitely not a sourcing strategy for us at all anymore. Whereas it used to be once a week I would go and
we'd go to 6 stores.
I had a loop that I would make. She would come with me sometimes, but I would have a loop that I would make, and I would come home with a car full of stuff. And that was just a few years ago here in Vegas, and now not at all.
The prices have like quintupled, and the inventory is pathetic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really what you said, pandemic killed garage sales, pandemic killed thrift stores too.
And I think
it's been tough.
Like, people complain about that a lot, and you see that on a lot of the forums and boards and stuff, and people are like, I don't understand. It used to be so good. And it sucks that it's not good anymore. Like, that's unfortunate, but it's still like, it means you have to shift your strategy. It doesn't mean that you go online and complain about it.
Right.
All the
it
time.
means you've got to do something about it. Yeah. I mean, I still love going thrifting. We love to take weekend trips to go sourcing and go thrifting, but I found even our last several trips have not been as good as they used to be when we would go to a specific area and we would take a weekend trip and, hit 30 stores in 2 days and come home with the car chock full. Well, that's not happening anymore. It's still fun. It's still profitable. We still enjoy doing it, getting out of town and going and doing stuff, but it is not the money, the hoard that it once was, that I was able to acquire, hundreds and hundreds of items in 2 days. Now I'm lucky if I come back with, half a truck full. So
And then we went to the thrift store the other day and she almost murdered me because I literally found 6 really awesome pieces and she was so mad.
I tell people like they source in the garbage. Like if there was any way to go sourcing in the trash, like we would all be millionaires, I swear. Like every time we get access to somebody's junk truck, like one of those haulers, they're on their way to the dump's right around the corner from our warehouse. So sometimes we intercept them. We're like, what do you got in there? And we just like come out with gold. Like every time I do one of these shows, I wear like my junk truck gold. I'm like, look at this. It was in the garbage. If we could just get into the garbage, you guys. We need to
honestly, there's so much stuff out there. It's just, it really is about having to refocus and kind of refigure out ways to access it. I don't think there's ever going to be a lack of stuff to source. It's just nothing ever stays the same. And that's just the way it is.
And I've got, there's only so much LuLaRoe and Sheen or Shine and, Fashion Nova that I can sift through at a thrift store to try and find that one gem. It's not a good use of my time anymore.
Something that we haven't talked about and I want to start bringing into the podcast at some point is like this idea of like how important parts we are of the circular economy. Like we're so essential to the reduce, reuse parts of the triangle, like that, and the infrastructure is just not there for us to get in there and intercept these things before they end up at landfill. We like I said, we got the dump around the corner. The electronics recycling is across the street from us, and 1-800 Got Junk's facility is also across the road. We're that close to all of that stuff, and we don't have any method, networking be damned, to get in there and get the things. But what they're doing is they're taking it and tearing it all apart, and they say, well, this is responsible, we're taking the materials apart, we're doing the thing. That's great, but you're pulling things apart that still have a useful life. And we have to figure out somehow how we can like become part of that system. And I think that's where like resellers are going to end up making all their money, but haven't cracked the code. When I do, I'll let you know.
All right. Very cool. I'm excited about your session at the Remix. Obviously we don't want to like spill everything that's going to be talked about, but we do have like your session is basically titled Scaling Up. So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about will kind of go into that. And hopefully people that come to your session are going to walk away with some real concrete ideas of how they can grow their businesses.
Yes, I hope so. That's the goal. I mean, for anybody who wants, also, I want to acknowledge that it's okay not to want to scale up. Like it doesn't have to be everybody's objective, but I think it is an objective of a lot of people. And so, yeah, I really want to give some pointers, sort of talk about how we did it, how we got there. And yeah, what kinds of tactics and strategies people can apply to do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and you said you're at like $500,000 a year in revenue and your goal is to get to $1 million. So guys, I think she knows what she's talking about a little bit.
Right.
When it comes to building a business and being able to scale up.
What I wanted to say is, scaling up doesn't necessarily mean that you have to hire employees and start doing hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars a year. I think, another way to look at this is to learn information that will help you be the best reseller that you want to be, whatever that may be. Sometimes that's going to be teaching you how to raise your average ticket price so that you're working smarter, not harder. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you love to, if all you need to make is X amount of dollars and you don't need to make any more than that, then wouldn't you like to do it in half the time? Like, I think that's something that too many people overlook. It's really good to be able to get, like, Katy and I have no desire to end up at $1 million sellers, right? And that's okay. Like, that's just not our goal. Our goal is to work fewer hours and spend more time doing the things that we want to do while bringing in the amount of money that we want to bring in. And for us, that's probably like $300,000 to $350,000 a year between the two of us, and that's okay. Everybody's goals are different, and there's lots of different ways to get there, and that's why I think that learning some actionable tips from all of our speakers, but from your session is going to help a lot of resellers that maybe feel like they're in a rut or they don't know how to take it to that next level or get to that next step, or they are the reseller that has the $8 average ticket price, and how do I increase that? And I think those are all important things that people can learn.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that people can learn a lot of that just from listening to your podcast, The Business of Reselling. So, which the links are down below, guys. And if anyone, we're going to wrap up here pretty soon. But if anyone has any questions specifically for Jess, please ask them now. We can probably get in a couple of questions. But seriously, you should be listening to this podcast. Obviously, you're here watching this YouTube show. So you are somebody who likes to get out there and hear from other resellers and get information and hopefully help your business. So I don't think it's a huge leap to say that you should probably be listening to Jess's podcast, and you're definitely going to get a lot out of it.
I think that there are lots of different podcasts out there about reselling, not as many as you might think, but there's a handful of them out there. This is not to throw shade anywhere, but this is by far the most interesting one that I've listened to. And I'm not just saying that because you're here in front of us. It's really well thought out and really well done. I was really impressed. So keep doing it.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a really nice plug. Yeah, if people want to connect with me, leaving comments on the YouTube channel is great. Businessofreselling.com is where I just have it linking to every podcatcher that's out there. So wherever you get your podcast, you'll be able to catch it at that URL. And and it's just going to continue to grow and evolve. So I'm always looking for topics to understand what people really want to hear about.
Yes, Theresa?
I said, can I just say that I love the title of your podcast? I just think it's perfect. Business of Reselling. Like, that's what we all need to be listening to.
Do you know what? I agonized over the title for so long, and I had this $1 million reseller and all these ideas going through my head. And then I was like, no, it needs to be boring. That is exactly what I'm going to be talking about. Done.
No, and it's very succinct. It is what it is. There's no question what you're talking about. It's the perfect title.
With your background and your business degree, it's perfect for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm having a ton of fun with it. So I'm just looking forward to interacting more with people and just putting the content out that people want to hear.
I think that some of our Canadian friends are going to be very happy that since you're in Canada, you have some Canadian specific topics. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's pretty interesting because I know that a lot of times when we're talking about anything that has to do with reselling, sometimes our Canadian friends will feel a little left out because it won't apply to them. And so
it's true. Well, we do have Stu and Mandy and Jess. So we have at least 3 attendees from Canada. Mm-hmm. And I think Tatiana is coming back this year.
I think so.
I don't know if she bought a ticket or not yet, but I think Tatiana is coming back.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be super exciting representing the true north down in Vegas.
Exactly.
All right, Tommy's got some more questions. How long did it take you to get to $500,000? What's the one tip above all tips you'd give for upping your game?
We started doing it about 10 years ago, but it wasn't a serious business until 2016. So I usually tell people that it was 6 years, just from doing it as a hobby to actually making it a business. So I would say six years. And that's mostly just the 2 of us. We do have some help out of Manitoba. They do some virtual work for us, but it's mostly just the 2 of us. The one tip above all tips is it's so hard. I hate these ones. I have to say it's going to be raising your average selling price. It's one of the best things you can do, even though the focus on top line revenue isn't always the best strategically. Doing that is going to trickle down and have benefits all across your business. So just figuring out how to get that from, is it $20 now? And then try to make it 30. And when it's 30, make it 40. That's what we're always trying to do in our business. So, and it works. One of the things I talked about in the podcast yesterday was last fall, we did a $100 listing challenge. So we decided to start going through all of our inventory and only list things that we could list for $100 or more. So we spent a month and that's all we did. And our revenue just we were digging through death piles, lotting things up, and then we were just disposing of cheap things, and it really worked. So I think we're going to try it again, maybe in September this year.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else, ladies?
No, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm excited. The more we talk about all these people that are coming in October, the more excited I get.
Yep.
No, it's gonna be really fun.
We like to do a good balance of different types of sessions. We have panels, we have stuff that's more conversational. But I really find a lot of value in just a really good solid presentation. And I think that you are going to be, you're going to do great this year. And I'm super excited about it.
I'm definitely going to be present to be watching and listening. I missed so many of the sessions last year because we were running around and doing the organizing part, right? That this year I am committed to having my ass planted in the audience for as many of the sessions as I can, because I really want to actually enjoy the conference. I think it's interesting. I missed it all last year. I want to know what people are talking about. So
what you're saying is no pressure.
Yeah, none.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun.
You're going to be talking to a room full of people that already know and love what you do. And so, familiarity with the topic is always a huge perk. And so you're going to be talking to a room full of people that will get you.
Yeah, it's the audience. You're not trying to explain reselling to non-resellers. So that's,
Yep,
it'll be
absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, Jess. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Now I gotta go do all my shipping.
Me too.
Us too.
We need us too.
Oh yeah, her too.
I'm doing all her shipping right now.
I had surgery a couple weeks ago. I can't lift anything, so she's doing all my shipping still.
Yeah, so I still have shipping to do. Theresa, thanks for joining us from your hotel room.
Thank you all. It was fun, and everyone that joined us. I'm looking I love these Wednesdays things because it's hype us up. And we're like ready to go, and I'm excited.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys, for coming and joining us. We will see you all next Wednesday.
Also Sunday.
Well, also Sunday. But for this particular show, maybe they don't care about our Sunday show. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, and we will see you later. Bye.
Alrighty.